Okay, so today we are going to be reviewing this book, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and there is so much that I want to say, so I'm going to try and squeeze it all into this review because this book has gone through so much redemption. In fact, it's less that this book has gone through redemption and more the fact that I have started apologizing to this book for abandoning it because of its film adaptation. We are going to get to the book review, but before I get into the book review, I'm going to have a little bit of a rant about the film because I always talk about the Harry Potter films, and boy, do I have things to say about the film. So I'll start with the film and then I'll come back and talk about the book. Okay, so obviously, not long after the first book was published, it became very popular, and after the first three books were published, the first film came out and it did really well, the second film did really well, the third film did really well, and they swapped directors. I believe it's Warner Brothers, swapped directors for the third film, and that was fine. Then the most critical decision in all of filmmaking, in my opinion, happened when someone decided to hire Mike Newell to be the director for the film adaptation for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This film is so terrible in so many ways, and I have spoken to Harry Potter book fans and those who even haven't read the Harry Potter books about their opinion of the film, and I was honestly surprised by the reactions that I received because I thought I stood alone in thinking that the film was terrible because I had read the book. And I'll talk more a little later on about how the film actually wrecked the book for me until now. We'll get onto that later. But first, let's talk about the film itself and how these people were responding to my question of their thoughts of the film. So, those who, like me, have read the book didn't like the film because of the amount of inaccuracies in the film. And there is a massive difference between cutting things out of a film because you don't have enough time to include everything from the book. While this is disheartening for any fan of any book that is adapted into a film or a TV show, but particularly with a film, to have things cut out because there's not enough time, it's the most understandable excuse that can be made. We simply don't have enough time to include everything, and that is totally fine. But the problem with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, for those of us who have read this book, is that the film changes what they did include in the film. And that is incredibly annoying. There are some spoilers that I want to discuss about the film, and I'll do that once I get into my spoiler section. But I need you to know that, those of you who have seen the film but not read the wonderful book that is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, while the things that are included are in the book, they're done in a different way, and so it is a very inaccurate portrayal of this wonderful book, and that is incredibly annoying. But the other point that I wanted to make was those who had seen the film and not read the book. And the number one thing that kept coming through from those who are in that category is that they found it very hard to know what the heck was going on because there wasn't a constant flow in the film for them to understand what's happening every moment of the film. It was just like this jumbled up piece of, well, you know what. And it does come across that way. I was forced to reflect upon this, thinking about it from the frame of mind of someone who hasn't read the book, because I had read the book many times prior to the film coming out. So it doesn't matter if you've read the book or if you haven't read the book. The majority of the fans out there will be quick to tell you Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire film is the worst film adaptation out of any of the Harry Potter books, and it's just incredibly annoying. Now, let's cut back over to my review of the book as far as the non-spoiler version is concerned. When we get to the spoiler version, we'll be discussing my spoiler issues with the film. We'll be there in just a moment. But first, to my book version non-spoiler review for the book version. And generally speaking, if you haven't seen my reviews for books before, I split them up into two categories. The first category is the spoiler free, where I give you 3 pros and 3 cons, and then we go into the spoiler section. However, in this version of a review, I am not going to tell you that I'm going to give you 3 cons, because I can't give you any. This book is so good that there are no cons as far as I'm concerned. And that is just one of the biggest reasons why I felt so horrible for not picking up this book after goodness knows how many years, purely based on how much I disliked the film. And then suddenly I started thinking along the lines of, well, the film is an adaptation of the book, so clearly the book is just as bad as the film, and that's a massive mistake to make. I will definitely be rereading this book at some point in the future, but I definitely did not watch the film this time around, because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to ruin my Harry Potter world. Okay. My first pro for this book is that this book not only starts off with Harry going into his 4th year, and it's always good to go to Hogwarts, but there are 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 mysteries that the characters go through in this book. And that makes for a really exciting read, because you have 3 plot holes, well, not plot holes, but mysteries that haven't been resolved, and you're trying to work out what's what. And it's interesting because I knew the answer to at least 2 of the mysteries, but with the 3rd one, I could not for the life of me remember what the answer was. And the reason for this is, again, the film does not include the 3rd mystery. It's not there. So it was a surprise to me. It was kind of like I was reading something new, because I'd totally forgotten about it. There are 3 mysteries, and all of the reveals for these mysteries are just so incredibly well done. My second pro for this book is the climax. Wow. To sum it up in one word, wow. The climax of this book is not only so incredibly well done, but it sets us up. Book 4 is the halfway mark, because Harry Potter is a series of 7 books. So this is your halfway book, and the climax really does set you up. The climax in this book really does set you up for the final 3 books, the conclusion of the Harry Potter series. And oh my gosh, it's just so really well done. I'm not going to give it away here because it's a spoiler-free section, but I have to say, if the mysteries don't lure you into reading this book, 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 mysteries in this book that need to be solved, the second pro hopefully should, because the climax is, not only is it so integral to the series, but it is so well done. Oh my god. And my third and final pro for this book, I have many, but that just to quickly get through the spoiler-free section so I can gush in the spoiler section, is the reveals to those mysteries. So I mentioned in point 1, there are 3 mysteries in this book. They're all not only resolved, but resolved in such a really good, tantalizingly, just, oh my gosh, enticing way. It's just so really well done, and I just can't thank J.K. Rowling enough. The last thing I'm going to let you guys know before we end our spoiler-free section of this review of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is, if you have only seen the film and you have not read the book, and you are someone who likes to read, do yourself a favour and pick up a copy of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the book. Trust me, it will be worth your while. The film, as I was saying earlier, the film not only does it exclude things, and it excludes a lot of things. This book is a tome. It's 636 pages long. So there's a lot of things that are excluded from the film. But what is included in the film, Mike Newell got completely wrong. And so I would highly recommend that you let the film go and imagine, if you will, picking up this book as though it's a completely new thing that you know nothing about. Take the film out of your mind, read the book, and then get back to me and tell me what you think of the book versus the film, because the book, even on its own, without comparing it to the film, is an amazing book. But when you compare it to the film, it's just such an amazing journey, and I just feel so bad that I hid this book away in a dark corner of the room and never gave it a second glance because of what the film did. That is on me for doing that, but after this reread for the first time in at least 10 years, I cannot wait to reread this book again, and I'll probably do it, I don't know, maybe in December or something. I'll be doing some rereads in December, I think, at least. So I'll probably reread The Goblet of Fire just because of how much I love this book. I came away from the last Harry Potter book that I read, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, last week. When I went into reading that book before I started, I said it's arguably my favourite book in the series, and I came out saying the exact same thing. Having now read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, I can now say this book, without a doubt, is my favourite book in the entire series, because it is just, it's so much better than The Prisoner of Azkaban, which is still a good book on its own. But this book on its own is so amazing. If I could give it 8, 9, 10 stars, I would. I have no cons for this book. That's just how amazing it is. But we're going to leave that there because we have so much to discuss in the spoiler section, starting off with movie and then going into my thoughts on the book in a spoilery way. So, if you do not want to be spoiled, I completely understand, and I'll see you in my next video. For those of you who are hanging around for the spoiler version, I'll see you over there in just a moment. Okay, so let's talk in a spoilery way. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. You've been warned, I'm spoiling. Here we go. In a spoilery way about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the film, and just how terrible this film is. First of all, I want to start off with something that is very well known amongst Harry Potter fans, which is that awful line in the film that is so completely different to the book. Okay, so I'm of course talking about when Harry's name comes out of the Goblet of Fire and Harry goes into the waiting area, and then Dumbledore comes into the room and he yells at Harry, "Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" Oh my god, there's so many memes and videos about this one line, and there's a reason for it. In the book, Dumbledore does not yell at Harry. Why does he not yell at Harry? That is a very good question, and I'm very glad that you asked. Dumbledore never yells at Harry because it's out of character for Dumbledore to yell. He doesn't do that. Dumbledore, while he is an old wizard, has never once acted his age. He acts like a young and sprightly little kid, and he never yells. He's always so calm unless he absolutely has to get angry, but he never yells at Harry. There are times where Dumbledore will get disappointed with Harry, but he'll still be disappointed with Harry in a calm tone. And so to have the book say, "Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" Dumbledore said calmly, turned into, "Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" No. The next thing I want to talk about is, excuse me, is how dark this film is. It's not to say that Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is the lightest book in the series. It's not. You know, the first 3 books are middle grade. This is the first young adult book in the series, so it does go up a level as far as the age range and the darkness of the world. But in saying that, the film is way too dark for what is going on in this book, especially at the beginning. When the film opens up with Hogwarts, but when we get to Hogwarts in the film, everything is really dark. Not only, but their atmosphere, it doesn't seem really dark and cold, but the look of everything is really dark and cold, and that's not how it's portrayed in the book. It's portrayed to be light and a lot of fun, because Hogwarts is light and Hogwarts is a lot of fun, and that's why we want to go there. And if Hogwarts was portrayed as a really dark, terribly malevolent school, I don't think anyone would want to go there. So why are we portraying it as a dark and malevolent school? It's not that. And it just annoys me. The next thing I want to talk about, obviously, is something that is also well known among Harry Potter fans, but I would regret it if I didn't mention it here, and that is the introduction of the Beauxbatons and the Durmstrang students. Let me make this quite plain, as Professor Dolores Umbridge would say. Quite plain. Durmstrang is a co-ed school. Beauxbatons is a co-ed school. So why are we introducing these schools in this movie as non-co-ed? As Dumbledore says in the film, allow me to introduce the lovely ladies of Beauxbatons Academy, which still, he pronounces it incorrectly as well. But there are only girls that come into the hall. Now, this would not be such a discrepancy if there were only girls that came to Hogwarts to put their name into the Goblet of Fire to compete in the Triwizard Tournament. Because there's nothing wrong with Beauxbatons being a co-ed school, but their teacher, Madame Maxime, only bringing girls. That's fine. If that's what happened, we can forgive that. But that's not what happens. Beauxbatons has male students, and they're not there. Likewise, Durmstrang has female students, and they're not there. And it's very annoying because they're spoken about in the book. Particularly, there is a Durmstrang girl who is spoken of a little bit, enough to be recognised, and there is a Beauxbatons boy who is spoken about enough in the book to be recognised, and so to have this discrepancy is really annoying. There are many other things that just aren't the way that it's meant to be at all, especially with the reveal of Barty Crouch Jr. being the one to put the dark mark in the sky when we're at the Triwizard Tournament. In the film, you see his face. In the book, you don't even know who it is, and that's part of the mystery. Who conjured the dark mark? You don't know about... Harry doesn't know what Barty Crouch Jr. looks like until he's in the Pensieve with Dumbledore and sees Barty Crouch Jr. on trial. So they screwed that up too, along with so many other things. The final point I want to make about the film is that they left out SPEW, and anyone who is calling this spew either one, isn't reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire closely enough, or two, is a Ron Weasley fan and they just want to call it what Ron calls it. As I am Hermione Granger's biggest fan, I'm going to respect her and call it what it actually is. As Hermione corrects Ron, it is not SPEW, it is SPEW, the Society for Protection of Elfish Welfare. I thought this was such a beautiful thing, and I could absolutely see where Hermione Granger was coming from when she came up with this whole idea to try and give equal rights to house elves, despite the fact that the only house elf that really seemed to want to have equal rights was Dobby. Hermione makes a good point in saying that the house elves have been brainwashed and that, they just don't know any better, and that's why they're not fighting for this, and that's why they don't understand what's going on. But I totally understood why she did it, and it really upset me that it wasn't in the film. But what upset me more than that was the fact that the whole kitchen scene was not in the film. The fact that we don't include Winky in this film is beyond me, because Winky is a massive part of this film. The fact that we don't include Dobby in this film, and yet we include Dobby in the Chamber of Secrets, and we include Dobby in the final film, again is beyond me as well. I mean, SPEW, where's Hermione Granger when we need her to fight for the rights of house elves to be in films, right? I mean, where are they? So that annoyed me as well. So my final statement, my final word that I'm going to make about this film, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, is that Mike Newell made a massive point that he probably shouldn't have made in the special features of the DVD when he's being interviewed. He says he didn't read the book because it was a brick and he felt like he didn't want to read it. Now, the fact that anyone is going to hire someone to direct a film where they haven't even read the original source material, to me, you can see how I'm getting a bit angry with this. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you hire a director who has at least read the book, let alone loves the book? This guy read a couple of chapters, then stopped and decided, no, I'm just going to do things my own way. Thank God he was stopped from having the dragon that escapes the enclosure with Harry, Nisa, not in the book. The dragon remains in the enclosure the whole time. But anyway, guess we'll let that go too. Mike Newell wanted the dragon to light the Forbidden Forest on fire, and the only reason that was stopped from happening is because the Forbidden Forest is so integral to the entire series. I could go on. I really could say so much more about the film, but I really want to talk about the book. This film did an amazing disservice to this wonderful book, and so please don't let the film turn you off from reading this book. And if you haven't read the book but you've seen the film, please read the book and then compare the two and you'll know what we mean. Trust me, I get that it's a tome, I get that it's 636 pages, and some people might take a very long time to read it, and I understand that. And take your time and enjoy the book, immerse yourself in the world, but do yourself the favor. If you've seen the film, pick up the book, give the book a go, because the film is an absolute disgrace and a total and complete disservice to this amazing book that J.K. Rowling spent a lot of time, and you can see that she has, working on. Enough said, now let's talk about the book itself as we review the spoiler section for this book, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So one thing that I love that happens really early on in this book that does not occur in the film is the Weasleys going to pick up Harry Potter from his home in Privet Drive. Okay, wait. Before we go into that, I'm just remembering this scene that if I don't mention, I'm going to regret it. Dobby talking to Harry and giving Harry the gillyweed. Now, love Neville, hate Neville. I don't care what you think about Neville. It's totally fine. It means nothing to... It's not going to stop me from feeling however I feel about Neville. But Neville did not give Harry the gillyweed. Dobby does. And again, it annoys me that Dobby was taken out for Neville. It made no sense to me because you got to stick to the book. If you've got source material, you got to use it, okay? Just drives me crazy. But anyway, when Dobby's talking to Harry and telling Harry what he needs to do in the lake, oh my god, it's the funniest scene ever. Dobby has to rescue his Wheezy. My what? He's Wheezy. Harry Potter's Wheezy is at the bottom of the lake. Oh my god, it's just so good. And Harry's thinking, what is a Wheezy? Harry Potter's best friend, the Wheezy. So I just had to include that in there. Oh my god, I love Dobby. So, the Weasleys arrive at Privet Drive in the fireplace that has been boarded up because the Dursleys have decided to have an eclectic, as Mr. Weasley would call it, an eclectic fireplace. And they weren't prepared for that, despite the fact that Arthur Weasley went out of his way for that one day to have the Flu Network be connected to Harry's fireplace, to the Privet Drive fireplace, which... bless him. So much love for Arthur Weasley. But anyway, he went through all that work for seemingly nothing. But anyway, when he could have just apparated, and I don't get why he didn't just apparate. It would have been so much easier. Even if he just apparated to outside of Harry's house and knocked on the door. Anyway, bless him, it is what it is. So then he obviously blasts the heater, the electric fire out the way, and... name. Dudley. Dudley eats the tongue toffee. I just love this whole scene. It's so good. Because the beginning to me, while I love this entire book, the beginning was a bit of a slow start. It's not to say that I was bored. I wasn't. I enjoyed it. But, I don't know. But speaking of the beginning... The fact that they don't include the Dursleys at all, it really annoys me because it's so unsettling. You go into the film, and the film starts with Harry having the dream, the connection he has to Voldemort, the dream about the Muggle caretaker and Voldemort and Wormtail and all that. And then the film cuts straight to Harry being awoken to go by Hermione for whatever reason, even though it's Mrs. Weasley in the book, but we'll let that go too. See? He changes everything. To Harry being woken up to go to the Quidditch World Cup. Now, I don't like that they cut the Dursleys out. And the reason I don't like that they cut the Dursleys out of the film is because there is a moment that Harry gets to have over Dudley in this film, and I wish they had shown it. Mike Newell, why didn't you read the book? Why did everyone that hired him hire him? Anyway... So Dudley is on a diet. He's eating a grapefruit or something like that. And Harry gets to enjoy the fact that there is nothing that Mr. or Mrs. Dursley can do about the fact that Dudley needs to be on a diet and needs to eat a grapefruit. Meanwhile, Harry has cakes and all these nibblies upstairs on the floorboard that he gets to eat. Why didn't we get to see this? It would have been so good. Now let's go to the Quidditch World Cup. What annoyed me is that they show the lead up, well, they show enough of the lead up anyway. There are things they left out of the lead up once they arrive at the Quidditch World Cup that I was fine with them leaving out. But then when the match begins, it's literally let the match begin and then we're cutting to after the match. And this makes no sense because the best part of the whole Quidditch World Cup is the actual game itself and how Crumb catches the snitch even though Bulgaria is so many points behind that they can't win with him catching the snitch. Why couldn't we have seen this? Why couldn't we see the Omnioculars? Why couldn't we see the Leprechaun Gold? Why couldn't we see the Vila? None of it made any sense to me at all. Something else that I didn't like was with the Triwizard Tournament, Harry's name was obviously placed into the Goblet of Fire, and we don't find out until the end of the book that it was placed into the Goblet of Fire thanks to Polyjuice Potioned Mad-Eye Moody, being Polyjuice Potioned by Barty Crouch Jr. Why in the world was there no investigation that we were aware of as to who put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire? I get that Madame Maxime and Igor Karkaroff think that Harry put his name in the Goblet of Fire, but Dumbledore is convinced that he didn't put his name in, so why isn't Dumbledore investigating who the heck put his name in the Goblet of Fire? It doesn't make sense to me. I get that the Goblet of Fire is a binding contract and there's nothing Harry can do, that he has to compete, even though still with that, I still think Dumbledore should have fought harder because clearly someone put his name in the goblet and Harry didn't want to go in and it just doesn't make sense to me. But why didn't they investigate who the heck put his name in? It'd be my first priority. I have a student who is underage who has to do these dangerous tasks. Who set him up with this? And even if I had a little inkling that Harry was lying to me, brew up a batch of Veritaserum, let's get him to drink it. Harry, did you put your name in? No, I didn't. Great, you're cleared. Who did this? It made no sense to me. Why are we allowing him to go into this tournament? The fight between Harry and Ron went on for way too long comparatively to the movie. Ron and Harry make up way after the first task, which really annoys me because Harry's talking in the fire to Sirius and Ron says, oh, I suppose you're preparing for your next interview or whatever it is, and they're still arguing. But by that point, Harry and Ron aren't arguing, or are they? The first time they are, but not the second time. Anyway, the film mends their friendship too early, but in the book it kind of goes on a bit too long. But that did annoy me. But one thing that I loved about that time where Harry and Ron were apart was the fact that Harry and Hermione hung out a lot and they got a lot closer than they were. Now, Harry may not have wanted to spend every lunchtime at the library researching things, even though it was for his sake and because of the Triwizard Tournament that he's in, that she's not in, and she's just trying to help him. Bless Hermione. But they got closer because of that, so I did appreciate that. The first task of the Triwizard Tournament was really, really good. Nowhere near what the film was trying to portray it to be. Bless Mike Newell. But the idea that Harry use his broom to fly up in the air and get the dragon to fly after him, then he flies straight back down and grabs the egg and it's over, just shows how great a flyer Harry is. We didn't need all that action, but it was still a good task. Everyone seems to love Cedric Diggory, but one thing that annoys me is Harry tells Cedric the first task is dragons. He is literally telling Cedric this is what is coming up. Cedric, in turn, says to Harry for the second task, have you worked out what the egg is? Maybe you should go into a bath with the egg because that might help you work out the clue. Well, if you want to do the right thing, Cedric, why don't you just tell Harry we're going into the lake and something's going to be stolen from us and we're going to have to rescue it. So now you should work out what to do to survive underwater for an hour. Why didn't Cedric just tell Harry? I don't get that. Harry told Cedric. Harry didn't say, maybe you might want to go and visit Hagrid because maybe Hagrid can help you with what's coming with the first task. Harry said the first task is dragons. So it just didn't make sense to me. The second and the third task are both really entertaining in the book, unlike in the film. But what I don't appreciate is that if you're in the audience watching the second and the third task, you know nothing that's going on from the moment that the champions enter into whatever they're going into until they get back, and that's something that I just don't understand. But the third task, the maze, there are so many amazing things that happen in the maze. For example, the world kind of turns upside down in one of the sections. There is a sphinx where you have to work out a riddle. There is a blast-ended Scroot. There are so many things in the maze, and yet the maze in the film is so lame. Yes, you heard it here first. It is lame. How it's a normal maze until the vines start attacking Fleur and Harry is running away from the leaves that are closing in, and that's all that happens in the film. It is a great injustice to this book. Now, I really appreciate how Harry wants to take the cup with Cedric. Again, I need to correct the film, because in the film, Cedric is on the ground and he's being attacked, and he tells Harry, just take it, and Harry says, no, we'll do it together. In the book, Cedric is the one that's closer to the trophy, and Cedric says, no, you helped me. There's so many things you've helped me with this tournament. No, we'll take it together. It's Cedric who does it for Harry. So they completely changed that too. But I appreciate that they took the trophy together because it was a win for Hogwarts, and yeah, that was really good until, well, you know what happened. And of course, that is that the trophy ends up being a portkey. They end up in the graveyard, and Harry battles Voldemort. One thing I don't quite understand with Voldemort is all these layers of things he goes through to get what he wants, without thinking about the fact that this plan could be screwed up in so many ways. What if Cedric became selfish and just grabbed the trophy? Like, seriously, Voldemort is screwed, and Harry's still at Hogwarts, and we're all good, and Cedric wins, but he dies, and the end, and it makes no sense at all. Seriously, what the heck? I love the whole Priori Incantatem, where Harry and Voldemort's wands connect, but because they're of the same phoenix feather, they won't kill each other, and all of the people that Voldemort has killed comes out of the wand. Oh, and the fact that feather is Fawkes the Phoenix? What? This is such a good book, and I can't wait to read the 6th one. But I am going to leave that there and let you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. I hope you guys are having a great reading month yourselves. And if you've read this book or end up reading it, let me know what you thought in the comments below. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. I'll talk to you soon. Mwah. Happy reading. Bye, guys. Bye.